And we're live.
Wow. Back in the studio.
Wow.
Calling back in the studio. It's Saturday night. Is that the song? I don't know the song for that.
We actually have a song that we use as like a soft talk intro.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah?
Nice. Is it going to go in? It's going to fade into it right about... Nope.
I don't even remember how I edit these things. I'm definitely going to have to look back. I think it does. I think it's like, oh yeah, it like starts and it's like, it's a really cool song. I have no idea how it goes. And then it'll be like, what's good, everyone? But that will have already happened by the time they're hearing this part.
We're not fading into anything. We're fading down.
Woo, how are you feeling tonight, party people?
Feeling good.
Well, I'm feeling good too. You know why, Christian?
Why is that?
Because we are about to record probably one of the most highly requested soft talks out of all of them, which is the Aona soft talk. Round of applause.
Sorry, that was Geronimo soft talk.
Oh, Geronimo soft talk would be good. If this video gets to 1 million views.
If this particular video, if this video gets to 1 million views, we'll be upset. If people watching this that have never seen the show before.
Oh, welcome back to Soft Talk. It's been a while since we've done one.
It has.
And we're starting with a bang.
Glad to be back.
Less structured than ever.
Even less structured than the previous Soft Talks.
We've really just been letting it go.
Yeah. That's the theme going into this. Letting it go.
We're just letting it go. All right, so speaking of letting it go, I don't know how I was going to segue that one.
I was wondering.
Aona.
Letting go
Esen.
of a lot. Letting go of his past.
Would you say that Aona, this is a quite Michaela question, would you say that Aona is similar to Elsa in a way? That Elsa was letting go?
No. But, well, actually, let me see what the major story beats are. Elsa was locked.
1 second, we have to watch Frozen.
I know, I'm replaying it all in my head perfectly. I have it memorized. Elsa's locked in a castle-ish. Not allowed to go out because of ice powers. Okay, probably not. But I rewatched all of Frozen in my head, and it seems like a no. But
next time,
maybe they're both blue themed.
Speaking of blue themed,
there we go.
Why and how did you come up with Aona's name?
Speaking of blue themed, I saw someone ask a question like this, like, how did you create such a name that's like sounds so pretty or something along those lines? And I didn't have the heart to be like, it means blue in Japanese. and Azaram was named, and I was like, oh, that's a cool name. Where's it from? And you were like, it means blue. And this character's blue. And I was like, oh. And I remember sitting there and being like, wouldn't it be funny if like there were other characters in Azaram's family and they all were some form of the word blue? And like so far only like, I don't know. Like I think Usu isn't blue themed, and I think that Adelaide is not blue themed, but that's because she has nothing to do with Usu. But all of Usu's children that I've named, which if you're counting is 1.
2, right?
Well, 2 because of Seru. All of Usu's children that I've named have all had some form of blue or blue-related imagery in the name, and I plan to keep that up, and it's going to get really difficult if more of them keep getting introduced.
All 39 ways to say blue.
39 ways to say blue. So that's what it is. Every time if you say Aona, you are saying blue in Japanese.
Quick, can you say blue in any other language?
Azul, that's it. That's it. Wait, I took French. Why can't I remember what the word for...
Bleu. Is that
That
rude?
can't be it. Oh, wait, that might be it. I don't know. Sorry. Apologies.
Leave your favorite way to say blue in the comments, and maybe you'll get a soft pod character named after it.
And that's what after the way that you can say blue. Okay, you got it.
Oh, does Aona's name mean anything besides blue? No, right? It's just blue?
It's just blue.
Cool.
It's just blue. I'm so sorry. It's a pretty way to say blue, but it just means blue. I mean, it's not like perfectly so, because I don't remember if ao is a non-adjective or an e-adjective, but ao is just blue. Anyways, continue.
Speaking of the construction of Aona, before we dive into the little nitty gritty of his personality, Aona's class, is that what it is? Class, right?
Class? Yeah,
class.
We haven't played D&D in a while.
Somebody asked me the other day what class I played, and I was like, whoa.
What is that? Whoa.
I was like, you have to consult my DM. Here's his number.
Is above me.
That goes people above me. His class, monk. How early in Aona's conception did you know that he was going to be a monk?
Pretty early on. I mean, like, I had the thought that Aona was going to be something kind of in contrast to Azram, and, you know, based off of kind of the inspiration that I was going for, I was like, I love the sort of determined and focused route, and I like that sort of the fact that this character is very, like, comes from a disciplined life that's, like, in contrast. I didn't know that the life would be so tragic as the backstory was kind of built, but monk sort of came to mind along with, like, fighter, I think, as well, going into it. But from early on in the conception, I was like, oh, Azram is a warlock and is kind of free and a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Free-spirited, wild sort of thing. And I was like, I would love if the contrast to that was somebody who was very in control of their, themselves in terms of training-wise, their strength. And that came in the form of monk, and I was like, that's very cool. And also they had elemental monks and things like that, and I was like, I want him to do air stuff, etc.
Yeah, air stuff, cool.
Air stuff, it's so original. A monk that does air stuff.
No way. We're right in the fucking Bible over here. Anyway. People love Aona. Did you know that people were going to like him as much as they did?
No, not at all. I mean, I hoped. I really hope. I hope with every character that there's some people, even if it's not a lot, that are like, hey, I like that guy, or something like that.
Because he's one of the first, like, main characters for us that got introduced in the podcast, basically, and completely developed in the podcast. Like, we knew of him before, but we didn't really, like, know him at all, obviously, because of Azram's reaction to him in early podcasts. But seeing the people's reaction to getting to know Aona has to be one of the highlights of our podcast journey so far. It was like everyone had their favorites. It was pretty evenly split, and then it was like the rise of Aona. You know those like videos that are like popularity over time.
Google searches.
I want one of those for Aona.
Just like mentions of Aona's name in the Discord.
Yeah, because it went fucking crazy, and rightfully so. So a lot of people just want to know, like, everything about him. I'm
sure.
And a lot of people ask questions about, like, just favorites. So we're just going to go down the list of, like, favorite things.
Favorite things of Aona's.
This is the favorite section. Aona's favorite food.
Aona's favorite food. Oh, I know that this sounds like a quick fire round, so I'm talking faster, but I had a whole thing in my head when I saw this question. Aona, I have to, like, tell Aona's backstory to do this. Aona, as everyone may or may not know, starts his journey, right, from wherever Usu's domain is, all the way across from, like, coast to coast to Siniath. And Aona, in that time, had to rely on a lot of stranger's kindness. Now, before he had left, a lot of the food that Aona ate was like this is nutritional, this is going to get you through to the next day, to the next training, to the next fight, and that's it. Like, very white rice with unseasoned chicken breast, like and some broccoli on the side with no sauce or seasoning, just like food that is to train and survive. Weldon is not the first time that Aona's had to, like, rely on somebody's kindness, and one of the things that I had thought of in my head was Aona's favorite food probably isn't like, oh, something that his mom made him or something from his childhood, because that didn't really happen too much. Instead, Aona's first food was probably the first food that he tasted after he left Usu's domain. He had not much money to get across the continent. He had to make this journey alone. He had to rely on the kindness of a stranger who found him near starving. That stranger took him in, made him, a mild curry over rice, and Aona had never tasted something with so much, like, warmth and so many spices and so much flavor just like packed into it, and it stuck with him, and it stuck with him the entire time that he's traveled. It's like one of the first things that he remembers from his journey is that first bite, and he realizing that like food can make you happy. And food is not just a survival thing, it's like a care thing. It's a way to nurture someone.
Wow, thanks. I'm crying.
Okay, well, that's a long story to say all that.
Favorite color?
Favorite color, yellow. Like a natural yellow, like I said, like a wheat field, or like a sunset, or like a sunrise sunset sort of yellow. So those kinds of yellows. Yeah.
Animal. Favorite animal?
Favorite animal, bluebird.
Oh,
Very nice.
that's so cute.
I like that imagery in my mind, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert? He didn't have much dessert. I think Lynn Astra is like one of the first times, so I think he's pretty heavy on chocolate, you know? Yeah, the chocolate croissants. I think those are a big hit with Aona.
The slime?
Not the slime. We'll say not a big hit with Aona texture-wise. A sensory nightmare, some may say.
Would you say that curry is his comfort food?
I would say that, yeah. I would venture to say that like anything close to that sort of like warm, I'd venture to say that curry is those kinds of like mild spices, or like any of that kind of explosion of flavor, especially like warm dishes, so like stews and that sort of thing, that those are comfort foods to him.
After he got the curry, did he like learn how to make it and everything? Can he cook? That's a question, actually.
I'd say that in his recovery, I'd say that it was pretty early on in his journey, right? So he's still kind of jaded to the world, that sort of thing. I think that he regrets not asking. I think that he wishes he knew, and he wishes he could go back and say a proper thank you. He probably just like left in the middle of the night when that person was like, you need to stay here for a few days, you're very weak, you need to rest and like get water, and you can't continue on this thing. And he probably just snuck out that night to like continue.
He's so selfless and
westward.
hot.
Well, that he was sneaking out to go continue his mission, which was kill you. But
he's so selfless and hot.
But he probably regrets not asking for that, because you know how he can't replicate it. He wishes he could, but no, probably doesn't know how.
While we're talking about things that are Aona's favorites, does he have any pet peeves?
Loud chewing with someone's mouth open. I think that Aona, it just distracts him a lot, and it throws him off. I think the sound of it throws him off, so he just gets very like.
I feel like Usu is the type of parent to like yell at their kid for chewing with their mouth open, you know?
Yeah, probably. I think it's weird when it's like the worst person you know is pretty reasonable. It's like, you know what, I get that. Yeah, you're like, oh well, you can all bond over this, that you don't like when people are messy eaters or something like that.
Someone told me once to not chew with my mouth open, and I never did again. They fucking completely belittled me.
All it takes is one.
Literally, they were like, what are you, a fucking cow? Chew with your mouth closed.
Oh, well, that's a little bit more than just told you not to. They
And I was like 5 or something. I was like, shit. All right, close mouth now, dude. I didn't know.
God. Yeah, that'll do it. Oh my god.
I want to get one of those.
I think that Aona just knew that he didn't like it. I think that he had I think that they very rarely ate with Usu, you know?
Aww.
I think that Usu was there for training and there for discipline, and then he was gone most of the time because he's busy doing other things. But like, so he was around a lot of his siblings. I'm sure that there were a number of them that were messy eaters to some extent, for various reasons. And I think that, you know, nothing against them, but he probably just, the sound of it is just really off-putting to him. So I'd say that pet peeve wise, that makes the most sense to me.
Well, guys, we're going to be taking a quick little break because our Uber Eats just got here, and we are some hungry girls. So.
That's true. Hungry girlies were over
So please enjoy this commercial break.
Doo-doo.
Everyone, and my name is Gerald from Gerald's Goops and Games, your local magic shop for all your needs, goops and games. We are having a special BOGO this week of buy one, get one. That's it, right? That's the... Yes, a BOGO. You didn't even say what's the BOGO for? You need to tell... And thank you all. We will see you in this week at Gerald's Goops and Games for all your local games and goop needs.
Welcome back from the break after one Kyoto and a trip to Publix.
Yep.
And an episode of 9 Day Fiancé.
Yep.
And one Here we are, ready to resume this the Aona SOFtalk. So while we're in the more lighthearted questions of Aona, before we dive deep into the emotional hitting stuff, maybe we should save the lighthearted stuff for the end so we end on a high. No.
We're going to end on a low.
We're going to end on the lowest point we can possibly get.
Yes.
If Aona could have a pet or a familiar or something like that, what would he have?
I think touching on the previous answer, he'd probably do a bird. And I thought about this a lot as to why, and it's because birds can fly and birds can, you can look through the eyes of your familiar. If Aona at any point could just fly up, have his bird fly up, and then see from a different vantage point and see something that he possibly couldn't, he'd love that. So bird, bluebird probably.
Would he have a name for it?
I'm trying to think of a name. Aona would come up. Yeah, probably Birdie, right? This is the first thing that would pop in his head.
I hope I get to see fan art of Aona with a little blue bird. He's like, hey, Birdie.
Yeah, Birdie.
Tweet, tweet. What kind of music do you think Aona would listen to?
We discussed this a lot. It ended up on being like sad indie rock.
I'm sorry, the we is always so funny.
The board. I went to the board and the board kind of laid things in.
Dan is the board, but it's just funny because it's like we went to the higher ups.
I'm the board.
The board.
The board speaking right now.
I talked to the higher ups and they said that I want to listen to sad indie rock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had picked out a song which was like Fallen Down from Undertale, the reprise specifically, but it was like na 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 na. Yeah, that one.
That's a good one.
And what do you have to say?
Fallen Down reprise starts off very sad and very not hopeful, which is how Aona started out in his life before he met Soft and before he realized things in his life. And then it goes into an era of hopefulness and like happiness and thinking towards the future, because if you play Undertale, you know about that song.
Oh.
So that's my thought process. Goodbye, everybody.
That's very nice.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, CEO.
I'll edit it to make it sound like the board.
Oh.
Is that also the song you would say describes Aona the best?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the song that describes him the best, is that kind of narrative arc that song displays.
Would Aona rather fight one automaton minotaur size slug or 20 regular size slug size
automaton? I read this one. He would fight one automaton size slug because 20 of the minotaurs is like, that's painful, it's small, you know, they can get into places that they wouldn't usually be able to get into, and they could just, you know, They could beat you up in like an ant style, basically. Whereas the slug is just a big slug, and I want to be able to take care of a big slug.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know what that means. But, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. If Aona were a flower, what kind of flower would he be?
Talked about this one too. Is a cornflower. It's like a blue. It's this beautiful sort of wildflower, and it has a meaning which we didn't know originally. We were just going based off looks, but it means like hope and optimism for the future. And like that's what it represents. And apparently also young men looking for love or something like that. Arr.
Shippers, you hear that one?
Yeah.
Oi. Young man looking for love.
Oh, here. The cornflower is a native plant endemic to... Why am I reading that part out? It is a gentle reminder of the basic beauty of nature and the completeness of the circle of life. It represents hopeful optimism for the future. It represents Aona pretty well, I think.
Most important question in the AU category. We're ending on the AU category with this question because it's very important to me. What is, in modern AU, Aona's favorite anime? And if you say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I swear to God, Christian, we will meet in the street.
This is a tough one because I was trying to think of, what kind of person Aona would be in the modern AU and, how much anime would he watch? I always imagined him being somewhat sporty in how he was, and, part of me leaned towards a couple things. Deep cut anime. I'll give like a deep cut, and then we'll have to brainstorm a more well-known one. There's an anime called like Yuru Camp. It's like lazy camp is what it translates to. It's literally just like calm. These two friends, they go out and they go to like Japanese campsites, and then all they do is like set up campsites, they cook food, they tell you like the whole process of how camping works, and they show you like fun facts about camping. And I feel like that is Aona's jam, because it's all about just like seeing beautiful places in the world. And Aona, I think it's one of those things where like modern AU Aona, who's like really sporty, really like kind of always doing things that are active, etc., like sits down, goes home, and watches this like pleasant like slice of life camping anime is like wow. and just loves it. Not so deep cut. I was trying to think. I feel like he would just be like the generic like likes Dragon Ball Z,
No.
right? If you want to debate that, I mean, I'm fine with other options if you have thoughts on it. But like
not Dragon Ball Z at all.
I know,
though.
right? I don't even watch Dragon Ball Z.
Whoa, Christian, have you never watched Dragon Ball Z?
No, never.
Never. You've
Never
never experienced the Cell Saga?
No, I've experienced the episode where Goku gets his driving license.
That's one of the best episodes.
Because you put it on.
I think. So I think you're correct.
Okay.
I think you're correct. In case people were polling me, I think you're correct. I think that
sucks,
Aona
right?
would have like he would have the deep cut. He'd be like, I actually really enjoyed Mushishi. And you're
Yeah.
like, really?
You're like, wow, interesting.
And you're like, I guess you have taste. Like, I feel like if you're going to put him in like a generic category, can he at least like Naruto or something? Like
Yeah, and Naruto's on the nose a little bit for Aona. But I think I can compromise there. His handshake.
I think he also would maybe like some of the like he like Neon Genesis or something like that.
Oh yeah, that would be real emotionally hard hitting.
Oh
yeah,
Dresden did. Yeah, never mind. Aona.
Why would you say that? Dresden's Shinji Kenny.
I think that he would like Mushishi, and I think that he would like Slice of Lives in general.
Yeah, I think that's
He'd
fair.
get caught up by like Fruits Basket or something. That'd be like the cat. He'd be like, "Whoa, I actually really like this."
Exactly, but he would be in it for like the slice of life stuff, and then get real serious. He'd be like, oh, "This is deep."
So let's move on over, Christian. Speaking of the family bonds and the found family that you tend to find in animes such as Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, I guess.
It's a good song, right?
Aona and the Strings of Fate.
Aona and the Strings of Fate.
What does Aona think of the Strings of Fate?
Aona, honestly, I think that Aona admires everyone in the Strings of Fate for something different. Is kind of the way that because I came to this question a lot, and I was wondering how we kind of viewed them. After 2 months of travel, I won't say that like, oh, all their bonding happened within those 2 months, because it really wasn't much those 2 months. Like, you know, it was traveling, it was watches, it was like keeping an eye over your shoulders, fighting monsters, those sorts of things, and maybe small interactions or like, you know, conversations here and there to where he could feel comfortable. But like the majority of the bonding is happening on camera, quote unquote. But I would say that, you know, Aona has admiration to some extent for each person in the Strings of Fate for different reasons. Azrim for more obvious reasons because they're related, and I'll get to that, you know, later on. I think there's more questions about Azrim and Aona. Bren is probably the only person that, you know, Aona sees him as like a genuinely kind person with like similar goals, but he didn't really get to interact with him over the 2-month period because he just got progressively sicker. Deville is fun, and Aona admires how put together he is, and like also that he is kind of loose. He's been through a lot, and he recognizes that. Same with Ladara. She's very strong. He relates to her in some ways, and in other ways he's interested to hear her life experience whenever she divulges bits and pieces of it. And Vincent is somebody that deals with some of the same issues. Like, he sees a lot of, you know, similar personality traits in Vincent sometimes. So he feels like he can relate to Vincent and that Vincent can relate to him, which is not something that he often gets.
Do you think that there's anyone he looks up to in particular, like the most?
I mean, you may be surprised by it, but it is Azrim. Like, he looks up to Azrim the most out of everyone in the Strings of Fate, probably. And it's a number of reasons why. There's a lot of complicated emotions that come with, you know, getting closer to Azrim, and, you know, based off of how he's been raised and what he's been taught to know. But like, Azrim's really filled in that like role of somebody that he can go to, like somebody that he feels like has his back. And so he hasn't had that before, and that's something that he really appreciates.
Speaking on that, is there anything else about Aona's relationship with Azrim that you think like he's discovered over the past couple of months?
It's a tough thing, and, you know, I've thought about how narratively it would come up, and I don't think it really, it's a subtle thing. I think that Aona, one of the more complicated feelings that Aona's kind of come to know over the journey is how similar in terms of, you know, and it sounds bad, but like not really actions wise, but kind of personality wise, in terms of what drives them, sort of thing. How, you know, how there are more pieces of Usu in Azrim than there are in him, if that makes sense. Aona's always been somebody who fights because he has to, in a way, where he doesn't want to, and he has no desire to get stronger. You know, his only desire to get stronger is so that he can deal with the threats in his life, to deal with his goal, and then to get out. Whereas Azrim, where Azrim does have a goal that requires him to get stronger, Azrim is actively seeking out power. And Azrim is also not one to shy away from like a tough decision, if that makes sense. You have ambition, you have drive, and Aona doesn't. Aona has obligation. Like, that's what it is. Aona is obligated to, and, you know, that doesn't mean he doesn't care, but like, Aona is obligated to keep going on this journey and to keep getting stronger, and he doesn't want to have to. Whereas Azrim is somebody that is going for it. In a way, he respects that. In a way, it's kind of a difficult feeling because you were probably better suited to be under Usu than he was, if that makes sense.
Oof.
I know. Oof.
It's a scary AU to think about.
It is. Yeah, that would have been very different.
Well, speaking more on his relationship with the Strings of Fate and his travels with the Strings of Fate, what do you think is the moment that Aona has felt the most happy while traveling with them?
I'd say it was most happy was Lantern Night, for sure. It was in terms of happiness, you know, Aona is somebody that, like, in terms of character writing, he's kind of, in a way, he's going through like a similar process in terms of, you know, grief in a way when you have to forget very difficult things. And, you know, he's only just started that process of forgetting the difficult things that have happened in his life. And that means that he wakes up and, you know, he thinks about those things. He doesn't just live every day, you know, as though the past hasn't happened to him. It's something that he lives with. But slowly he's realized that he can forget. That, you know, there are moments where his mind is not on it and he won't even realize until he thinks on it later. And Lantern Night was probably like the first day where he didn't even realize he wasn't thinking about it. Like, just in general. And then, not to say that it's all good from here on out, but it was the first time where his mind was so preoccupied with how much he was living in the present that the past didn't matter. And that's probably the happiest he's been.
Ooh, motherfuckers are crying in the chat right now. I just know it. Going more into like Aona's backstory and his past, how do you think that Aona's ideas of the world have changed since he left his father's side?
So I was trying to find like a good way to explain this because it was always like clear in my head, but I never had to write it out or anything like that. Aona's life after a certain period, probably when he became like a teenager or so, was monochromatic in a way. He had a shade in which he saw the world, in which he was taught the world is beneath him, that one day he would grow to oppose the world and everything that it offered, that he has a higher purpose than the lowly and backstabbing humans or the people of Afra, basically. These people that he was taught were like beneath him, everyone else basically that wasn't Usu and his family. And he was set out on that journey, you know, with that monochromatic shade of the world. But as he experienced the small things in life, kindness from strangers, beautiful vistas, you know, as he was shown how much is in the world and how much kindness people have for each other and the small things, the small connections that people have, you know, trying to shut that out. But I always thought of Aona came into this with tunnel vision that was always threatened to widen, where Aona could only see his goal, or he thought he could, but he was constantly, his mind was wandering to what else there was to life. And slowly other shades of color began to be added into his worldview. He saw selflessness, he saw the beauty of nature, he saw the expansive world around him, the one that his father had tried to like shut him away from, and to make it so that even if he was out in it, he wouldn't be able to see it or experience it, and he did anyways. And so if he hadn't, you know, traveled the world before reaching you in Zinyath, I believe that if he kept that same worldview, he probably would have killed you that night. But by the time that he saw you, the world was in full color, and he couldn't ignore that. And so Aona's life has changed a lot. The world is multicolored and beautiful, and it's because of that he's been able to change, that he's been able to see that people, you know, mankind is worth saving. And now he's just got to put that together. He's like, now that the world is beautiful, what does that mean? And like, now I'm against, you know, what I've been raised to do for all my life. So now he's got to put it all together.
Wow. Beautiful.
I had to think of a way to put it into words.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But speaking of like Aona's view when he's a child, there's a question about if he was creative as a child, if he used to draw or have anything like that as a child. Do you think that was the case, or do you think he wasn't really able to in that environment?
Yeah, I think he was plentifully creative. I think that he was had an affinity for drawing, as we kind of touched on a little bit. You know, he loved visual arts. You know, Aona's somebody who has a very good eye for aesthetics and things that he thinks are beautiful, and kind of capturing those images to himself a little bit. And creativity is not something that's rewarded when you are meant to, enact your will upon the land eventually. Creativity is not something that's awarded when you're raising a conqueror. And so that was taken from him at a very young age, and he probably hasn't come back until this arc, basically, that he can draw and that he likes it, and he likes working with art and things along those lines.
Do you think he's musical at all, or?
No. Unfortunately not. I don't think that Aona is a very musical person. I think he can maybe hold a tune, but it's nothing flattering.
And does he have any go-to stems that he's had since he was a kid or developed recently?
I talked about this with a few people, and I thought about it myself because I very quickly was thinking about Aona's character and then him being coded sort of neurodivergent, and I was like, well, yeah, I was like, this makes sense for this character. And so a lot of Aona's stems are sensory things with his hands, applying pressure, wringing his hands. I constantly describe in stressful situations Aona's messing with his hands and doing a repetitive motion basically to kind of keep up a sensory feeling, and that's his main stem.
And last kind of question about more of his past. How do you think Aona would describe his mom, or what does he miss the most about her?
I tried to think of a bunch of words to come up with to kind of think of the way to describe her. Ultimately, to Aona, his mom was the shade of a palm tree in an oasis underneath the sweltering desert sun. He lived in an environment where there was his life was barren, devoid of many things, and being with her was refuge. It was safety. It was the little bit of kindness he was allowed. And that changed for a reason that I don't think we've discussed yet in the podcast, and I think it might be revealed later on. But Aona wasn't always without his mom. There was a certain period, there was a certain time when she was taken away from him, and from then on, that is, Aona hasn't seen his mom. He's had promised now of being able to see her if he completed this, but now his only hope of doing so is defeating Usu, or figuring something out there. So he misses her.
Can't wait to get to that. That's sure going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Speaking of Aona and his family, what are his feelings about Adelaide? Does he kind of hold the same feelings to Adelaide as he does to Azurum?
Aona, the difference between sort of Azurum and Aona is that, of course, Aona has known his entire life that he has siblings, that he has a plentiful amount of siblings and half siblings. Some of them spread all across Afra, like Adelaide, and some of them right there where he lived in the domain of Usu, being raised there alongside him, sparring with them. To him, Adelaide is not something irregular, not something in which he's going to see her and be overwhelmed with emotion, because he knows this. I think that every person that's related to Usu, he feels sorry for her, because he knows what that means. Being related to Usu and in any sense is like a curse to him, and it's one that the bearer has no fault for. And so he knows that when it storms, that she can feel his presence, and that it's a terrifying and oppressive feeling. He knows that she may have nightmares about him despite not even knowing who he is. And he knows that deep down that there is this sort of hold that Usu has over her, whether she knows it or not. And so he just feels sorry for her that's the case.
Oof.
Oof, yeah. I know, I didn't realize we were going bam, bam, bam.
When we said we were ended on a low, we really meant it.
We meant it this time.
Just kidding, because I saved some lighthearted questions for the end because I knew that this would be the case.
Oh, very nice. Great foresight.
So we talked about the party earlier. This is gonna kind of segue into like the shipping section of this. So if you guys don't fuck with that,
too bad,
because we do. But before we get to the full shipping stuff, we talked about Aona's relationship with the party. I don't know if you mentioned anything about Aona's relationship with Dresden in there, but
I did.
The people want to know, and I'm the people.
The people want to know how Aona feels about Dresden.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna break Dresden's heart, but Aona is like, he doesn't see him as a problem. Dresden is so worried about Aona and so worried about what Aona's doing and all this stuff. Aona doesn't think about Dresden. I think that Aona thinks Dresden is attractive.
Hey, yo! We didn't have to.
and vice versa. But like, you know, I think that in terms of how he feels, he's like, oh, this person's trustworthy to an extent. They seem a little bit like, you know, like they're a little hot to handle, but like, who isn't in this party? Like, what am I gonna say? That sort of thing. So he doesn't fault him for that.
Does he think he's cool?
Yeah, I think he thinks I think that's the thing, is that Dresden is all embroiled in this rivalry or whatever, and it's all one-sided. Like, Aona just thinks he's like a cool dude.
Are they even friends? Would you say they're friends?
I'd say they're probably at this point closer to acquaintances, friendly acquaintances, and that probably would even hurt Dresden too, because Dresden's like, I thought we were rivals. Thought we had a deep connection. He's like, oh, I didn't know you felt like that.
Oh my god.
Love to get to know you more. That sort of thing.
You love to get to know you more.
But no, if you want to know how Dresden feels, wait for the Dresden soft talk. But Dresden, very like heated rivals with Aona, and it's completely one-sided.
Hey guys, if you want to see the Dresden soft talk, 2 million views. We said 1 million for the Geronimo.
1 million for the Geronimo. 2 million for the Dresden. We're really holding our lips tight for that motherfucker.
3 million if you want to hear about that Lightning Star song, motherfucker.
But not DeVille, just Lightning.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that would be pretty funny.
Just Lightning
Star song lore.
God.
Speaking of Aona finding people attractive. This person asked, I'm just going to read their question exactly.
Sure.
By the time we get to the start of the Season 2 Lunastra arc, it's clear that Ladara and Aona have settled into some sort of routine with each other. In light of 67's reveal that Aona does have romantic feelings for Ladara, spoilers for episode 67, I probably should have said that before I said that.
That's okay.
Welcome. Do you have any headcanons about the time between the Strings of Fate leaving Weldon and them arriving to Lunastra? How the fuck did this motherfucker develop feelings for Ladara? That's what the people want to know.
That's how they want to know. And, you know, I want to start this off by, you know, I can't really say that anything I say is a headcanon, because if I say it, then it kind of feels like that's what happened, right?
To put it into perspective, I put a section of our questions tonight under God's questions. It said God's questions, and it were all the questions that were directed towards Christians. So no longer headcanons.
The real thing.
Give us hot off the press.
Here's the thing. So in terms of D&D shows, travel is difficult to portray unless you're like a Critical Role and you have that much time. We don't have time to put 4 hours of content out every time we do an episode. We have enough time for like an hour and a half or whichever. So we can't do the Weldon to Lunastra travel. But because of that, I said earlier that like none of the significant development happened off camera. So like by the time you reach Lunastra, Aona is at a point where he feels comfortable around everyone, where he's not distrustful and like sitting there being like, oh, are these people going to betray me or something? You've had 2 months to prove it, that you could like take this motherfucker out in his sleep or something like that. Like, you've had 2 months to prove that you could betray him at any point, and you haven't. And so he is pretty comfortable around everyone. Doesn't mean he necessarily really likes everyone or something along those lines. That's for the story to unfold. But I will say that there is one connection that I believe in my head to be canon between Ladara and Aona, and it's the fact that both of them, in terms of their skill set, their physical ability, and just how they kind of lean in terms of what they prefer to do in the party, are the best at watches. To the point that with Renaer being sick and only, the other people being Vincent Azram and DeVille, and, with DeVille being in the picture too, it probably left those two to be doing the most watches in terms of their later at night, so they would take shifts. So, Ladara first, then wake up, switch off with Aona. And there's that little bit of crossover time in between, like, Ladara's watch and Aona's watch. That was, at first, like, a pretty instantaneous, like, hey, like, your turn, and, like, thanks, and then move off to the position to do the watches. The other one goes to sleep. That sort of thing. That little bit of crossover time. And that little bit of crossover time would slowly start to, like, expand into, like, little greetings, or like asking how the watch was, or commenting on something they saw earlier in the day, or like a funny thing that like you talked about during your travels, and then slowly to like Aona trusting Ladara enough to like ask certain questions about other people in the party or herself, or probably not even herself until like further on, but like other people, or just like things about like places that she's been or something like that, until slowly that crossover is no longer this like quick reading before going out to bed. It suddenly spans like a much longer period of time, to the point that like for a period of time towards the end there, Aona and Ladara would like spend the middle part where they would meet like staying up a little bit, talking to each other on watch before one of them would go off to bed.
And at the beginning of the Lunastra arc, they're on fucking watch at the same time, you sick motherfucker.
Exactly.
You sick. My jaw is on the ground right now. Are you guys hearing this, folks? Hot off the press.
Exactly. And so that's how it goes. I think that watches were the chance for Ladara and Aona to start talking and to feel more comfortable around each other. And that leads directly into the events of Moonlighters.
Wow. I can't wait to read the fanfic. I really can't.
It's wild.
Oh, surprisingly, that was the only Ladana question asked. But
that
I feel
is really surprising.
Yeah,
but I think most people are like waiting with bated breath to see what happens next.
Yeah, because there's not a lot. Like, it's the first romance we've been able to see on camera. And it's really, honestly, really fun to watch as a player, as a watcher, as an editor, as an enjoyer. And
I'm glad. I'm very thankful that people are like really enjoying it, and I'm happy to keep playing it.
We only have 2 questions left.
Sure.
One is, what is Aona's perfect day?
Aona's perfect day. Aona's perfect day is usually probably going to be spent with only 1 or 2 other people, if not by himself, but honestly, he probably would prefer for at least one other person to be there. He would be in a place that he is totally new, where he's never seen anything in the city or this part of the world before. Maybe it could be a hike or just a leisurely walk through a street he's never been down, and honestly, just winging it, looking for the tallest places and sitting on the edges of them with somebody, just talking, looking upon the world from above and just taking in how beautiful it is. Finding a place that's like a hole in the wall and having lunch or dinner there, and meeting or just people watching the people that live there. Aona loves exploring, not necessarily adventuring, but exploring. And if he could explore somewhere with somebody, I think that would make him happiest.
I lied. I was reading, and now I actually have 2 questions left.
I actually have 2 questions.
2 questions left. Crazy. What do you think Aona's Halloween costume would have been for the Halloween Gambit?
I landed on it, and maybe we'll continue.
This is me. Are we gonna have a new Halloween episode this year?
Do we want to do that? We could. We could figure something out. It's always fun. Continue it. It's a yearly saga. It's so funny. We're like, episode 2 is out. We can only post these on Halloween, so get this one while you can.
That is so funny. We should do that.
Yeah,
it's approved. We just talk to the higher ups about it.
Okay, we'll talk to the higher ups. Halloween one shot. Aona's costume would be like Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf or something, right?
I thought you were gonna say like Power Rangers or something. He's to be a Ninja Turtle.
Ninja Turtle's really good, actually. Ninja Turtle is probably it, right?
I think he'd think the Ninja Turtles are pretty cool.
I think he'd think they were great. You know, I think he'd like quote them as like, you know, Donatello always said.
Every time you see a turtle in the street, he's like, oh, I wonder if it's a Ninja Turtle. Yeah, I don't know which Ninja Turtle do you think would be his favorite? Do you know them well enough? Mikey?
Raphael.
Oh, because he's like mean.
Raphael? Is he in the blue one?
No, he's the red one.
Which one is the blue one? Is that?
It's Leo.
That's Leonardo?
Yeah.
All right, cut that. Leonardo. Leonardo would be his favorite. Yeah.
Leonardo, I get with that. I like Leo.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I think that Aona like legitimately would like
Ken Leo.
What? No, Aona.
He would Ken Leo?
No. Leo Ken, Leonardo Ken. He'd sit down and, you know, Ezra would be going through something. He's like, well, Leonardo always says when Leonardo gets in trouble, he always relies on his friends.
Oh my god, you're so right.
And he would give serious advice out in forming the Ninja Turtles.
I feel like Aona would also, I mean, I guess it's like Power Rangers is a real life equivalent, but he'd be like a Germa 66 fanboy, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. People, there's like a fraction of our fan base that is like you, me, and like two other people that will understand what that means. Oh my god.
Oh, last question for the Aona Soft Talk is, what kind of stuffed animal? What do you have?
Hard about it. It'd be like a Djungelskog, that big bear from IKEA.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because I always just thought about it, like, you know, Aona this may be the one thing that Aona doesn't admit loudly out to people, but you know, if he had something big to hug at night, like something like a Djungelskog, one of those big teddy bears to cuddle, I think his quality of life would increase dramatically. I think he'd be much happier if he could just like, you know,
I think we all
something.
would.
Yeah, cuddle something. And that's how it goes. That's how it goes for Aona.
Well, Christian, I almost called you Aona.
Well, Michaela. Well, Ezra.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Aona Soft Talk. Do you have any last thoughts about Aona that you want to share? He's like Renair's like original character, but technically he's from Beep. Beep. But like Aona is like your own creation. People have asked me before. This is not, I guess it could go in the Aona Soft Talk. I did not create Aona. I had no fucking idea. So
it was. It was a wild arc of character for Aona, and it's very nice that it's very, I don't know, it's kind of amazing that like this character that grew on the podcast is one that resonates with people so well. Enjoy him while you have him. You know, originally, this is like a super spoiler, but like you know, Renair was separated from the party for a really long time. For the next arc, I was planning on having Aona take that role and be the one that was separated.
No, I thought I had a headcanon that Aona was going to leave us after this arc at the beginning of the arc, but then once we started going through the arc, I was like, that motherfucker ain't going anywhere.
He's not. I thought that he would get separated somehow, and things worked out differently, but this would be a much more difficult soft talk because I'd be like, oh, I just took away this character.
I thought that Aona was going to leave. My headcanon was that him and Azram were going to be like, we both need to get stronger to go beat our dad. I'll meet you at the finish line. But that was like before his relationship with the rest of the party had really developed. So that was, I think, that was my headcanon, if he never really developed that much more at the party. He was just kind of there.
I think honestly, deep down, I mean, Aona doesn't want to be alone. So he wouldn't leave the party. It's just, he's been alone for like so long in his life, like his entire journey to here, and this past almost decade of his life has been alone in his mind, and so now he's finally with people, and he's not going to give that up.
Well, folks, we really said...
What are you doing?
Wait, I have a God comment, which is also the fact that even though, like, Azram reminds him the most of Usu, Azram also reminds him the most of his mom, and it would be hard for him to leave.
That's so sad.
Have a good soft talk, everybody.
Why is it the saddest comment I ever heard?
Well, we said we'd be ending on a low, so... Well, we always keep our promises here at SOFpod. We always keep our promises.
And it's the only show on the internet
that talks about D&D.
Exactly.
Oh, well, guys, thank you so much for coming to the SOFtalk. Let us know in the comments what your favorite way to say blue is. Stream to 1 million for a Geronimo SOFtalk. And...
Stream to 1 million.
If I don't see SOFpod Geronimo SOFtalk 1 million trending number one worldwide.
The longest hashtag I've ever heard in my life.
Listen, if you need a stream guide, I know how to stream. I'm joking.
All right, and on that note.
I know, right, guys? Cut the cameras.
Cut. Get me out of this thing.